would.
Everybody would please put your name and which organization you're representing. We would greatly appreciate it this morning. Type that into the chat if you would, please. Okay.
Richard, go ahead and take it away.
Greetings, everyone. I want to take a little point of personal privilege because it's 10 o'clock and it is September 11th, and I won't go into why, but it has a very, very strong personal meaning to me. I want to tell you that last night, 19 years ago, 246 people went to sleep last night in preparation for the morning flights. 2,606 people went to sleep in preparation for work in the morning. 343 firefighters went to sleep in preparation for their morning shift. 60 police officers went to sleep in preparation for morning patrol. 8 paramedics went to sleep in preparation for the morning shift. None of them, not one of them, saw past 10 a.m. this morning, 19 years ago. In one single moment, their lives were gone. So I want to start this by saying, as you live and enjoy the breaths that you take today and tonight, before you go to sleep in preparation for your life tomorrow, kiss the people you love, snuggle a little tighter, and never take 1 second of your life for granted. Not one. What we are trying to do today is to not take for granted any of the things that are involved in conservation, not take for granted our forests, not take for granted, the wildlife, not take for granted our water, none of those things. So it's my privilege to just get you started by introducing Katie Lord. And she has a very extensive resume, and sometimes you don't like to hear resumes, but this is impressive. So I really want to read this to you. She is Vice President of Nonprofit Development at Proof and brings an extensive background in nonprofit development and marketing. She spent her entire career working in the social sector. First in fundraising and development in 3 national profit organizations, American Cancer Society, Leukemia and Lymphoma Society, and Make-A-Wish, Missouri. She then transferred her skills to nonprofit consulting with Byrne and Polesky Associates, where she served as vice president and consultant. There she worked for clients from greater St. Louis, Kansas City metro area, the states of Kansas and Missouri, and nationally. During her tenure, Katie worked with clients to raise millions of dollars toward their capital goals through expanding donor relations and implementing the best practices of her client partners. Katie's strength and passion is working with nonprofit organizations to increase their fundraising and development success through strategic donor-based long-term planning. Katie is a board source certified consultant in board governance, as well as a speaker and trainer in the nonprofit sector. She serves on the Kansas City AFP Chapter Program Committee and is a member of the Charitable Gift Planners of Mid-America. Katie is a graduate of the University of Kansas with a BA in psychology and a concentration in communications. She enjoys traveling, reading, and staying active with her husband, daughter, and 2 dogs. You're going to enjoy this because today she's going to present what happens when you can't shake hands with your donors in the nonprofit sector. COVID-19 has vastly impacted our marketing and our development departments. In this course, we will discuss new strategies for donor engagement, fundraising, including targeted donor communications, year-end fundraising, virtual event fundraising, and stewardship. You will leave this session with a better understanding of the current landscape and how your organization create and maintain lasting relations with your donors at a social distance. We all need this different times, just like it was 19 years ago. Katie, take it away.
All right. Good morning, everyone. Let me share my screen here real quick so we can get started. And, all right, here we go. Well, thank you so much to the Conservation Federation. I'm so excited to be here with you on this, well, it's rainy Friday in Kansas City, so hopefully it's a little bit better across the state. But so today we're really going to talk about something that I know we are all struggling with, and forgive me if I use the word pivot a lot, because I think it's my new least favorite word of 2020, but it's one that I think it just really encompasses what our organizations are going through and how we are needing to really move forward and reinvent ourselves and recreate new opportunities for our donors and our members, and how we can kind of help to do that in a socially distanced way, in a respectful way, but still in the way of not sacrificing relationships and the hard work that we've already done. So you've already heard about me, so we're going to skip that one. This is about Proof. If you're more interested about what we do, you can go to proofpositioning.com, but we use emotional intelligence to help organizations with their messaging, and I specifically do that in the nonprofit sector. So we kind of help create deeper relationships through marketing and fundraising. So today, some of the things that we're going to hit on today is we're going to understand some of our key donor segmentations and how we can start to utilize digital and other communications and create segmentations within our organizations that can allow us to have kind of deeper conversations with our donors through email and newsletters based on donor preferences, and then also just some really basic segmentations that can help us to kind of target and personalize our communications. We're going to talk a little bit about our year-end fundraising campaigns. We're going to talk about do's and don'ts, and then also stewardship expectations and how we can kind of integrate those into our fundraising plans. So quick little poll, if you can type into the chat, where do you think we are? I think this is kind of an important piece, is where do you think we are in the COVID cycle? So do you think we're just starting COVID? Do you think we are post-COVID? Or do you think we are in the middle of COVID? So please feel free to type your answers on where you think we are in the COVID cycle. Let's see. Middle, great, middle. Great, not in the middle of a peak. Post, okay. All right, great. There is no right answer, but this can kind of help you. But my opinion is that we are kind of in the middle. We are still in crisis mode, if you will, as far as our fundraising goes. Things still continue to change at such a rapid pace that I would say that we need to continue to be agile and to not think that we are out of it yet, or can fully rest in a post-COVID rhythm, whatever that's going to look like. So I'm going to start with some doom and gloom. I'm going to rain on our parade a little bit, but then I'm going to talk about how we can really come out of this stronger and build better relationships at a distance. So doom and gloom, the first quarter giving numbers came out a little bit ago. I'm expecting second quarter numbers to come out here shortly, but giving was down 6% first quarter in 2020. If that continues throughout the year, that will equate to $25 billion that we will be down. Estimated losses just in Missouri alone of how many nonprofits are we expecting to close due only to COVID, so not due to any other prior situations, but due to COVID, is about 413 we expect to lose. And so far, about 1.6 million nonprofit workers have been laid off in the sector. So it's a little, I mean, it's tough out there for everyone. You're not alone, but there's a lot of positivity that we can have in the sector, kind of knowing, you know, this is not to say that this is what will happen, but fundraising and donor communications is more important than it even was before COVID, because we can't take our donors' hands now. We have to come up with different ways to build relationships. And how can we sustain that, not just through COVID, but afterwards. So this is one of my quotes that I like. I think is just very, it's a good follow-up to the doom and gloom. So Teddy Roosevelt said, "It's not the critic who counts, not the man who points out how the strong man stumbles or where the doer of deeds could have done them better. The credit belongs to the man who is actually in the arena." And that is all of our nonprofits right now. We are truly in the arena. So if you can, try to, while I just gave you a dose of doom and gloom, try to block it out. Try to focus on what you can control and what you can do, because you are truly in the arena and providing valuable services that are truly needed. One of the things we're going to talk about a little bit later is how to message when we are not a direct or a perceived organization that is directly affected by COVID. We are all affected by COVID, and so that's a false narrative that we're going to really talk about. So powering the pivot. And to use a pun, because I think I'm so funny, the first thing you need to do is plan and take the temperature of your donors. Now is the time to survey donors, volunteers, staff. Take the temperature of where they are. Ask basic questions of, you know, just basic questions of their giving, how they want to be communicated with, what's the most important issues to them right now, because that's can help you in how you are going to create and communicate moving forward. So surveys do not have to be long at Proof. Our surveys are 5 to 7 minutes. A really good rule of thumb for surveys is try to keep them under 10 minutes. So use a Likert scale, you know, on a scale from 1 to 10. How important is this to you? Ask some basic demographic questions. This is also a really good time in your surveys to try to get as much information about your donors and to plug that into your database. Whose email addresses are you winning? Or are you missing? If you're missing an email address, now is the time to pick up the phone and call and say, would you mind taking a quick survey with us? It's really important for us to understand how you feel and to know where you're kind of at in the current climate. It's also just a great time to have a quick conversation. But send out a survey, send it out to everybody. Past donors, current donors, prospects, send it out to your entire sphere and kind of get the idea of where you are going. It is really important right now, while we are planning and trying to create budgets, to of course have multiple budgets. So have, best case scenario, worst case scenario. But I'm even going to say, if you can, really try to break it down your budget into 90-day chunks. Things, like I said, are changing so rapidly. What is true in this quarter could not be true in the next quarter. We don't know if there's going to be another shutdown, outbreak, something of that nature. And so it's really important to look at 90-day plans and to do quarterly reviews of your budget. I would almost say a quarterly review is a little less. I think you should be having monthly budget meetings right now and seeing where you're going so that you can, again, pivot and plan quickly and be responsive. Sometimes something that we do in the nonprofit sector is we stay the course a little too long. And I think if there's anything that COVID has shown us, it's shown us that it's really time for us to be as agile as we can. So really, again, try to do quarterly plans, 90-day plans. Also, it can depend on how your cycle's going, but have those 90-day plans, do quarterly reviews with your teams, and set quarterly goals. Try to look back year over year where you were and what, a best case and worst case looks like, and then what your target is. There is a great book out there. It's called The 12-Week Year, and I cannot remember the author, so that's why I put author there, so I apologize. But I could not remember the author. But if you just type in 12-Week Year, it's a very, very popular book. There's great templates if you go to 12weekyear.com. But that is the templates, to be quite honest, that I'm telling a lot of my clients to use. It really kind of puts goals into a tighter timeline and gives you some opportunities to really focus on a quarterly basis. Also, just because your plan's written down doesn't mean you can't change it. Changing, and again, agility is so important, and really the survey is going to inform a lot of the decisions that you can be making going into the next year. One of the number one things I hear right now is, we have a pretty good idea of what the rest of the year is going to look like, but come January 1st, we have no idea. Now is definitely the time to be talking to your donors, to be getting these surveys back, and then to be using that information to inform your plans moving forward. Again, these surveys don't have to be, 100 questionnaires. They can be done on SurveyMonkey, or any of those resources, but really now is the time to do that. Now is also the time to do database management. It is so important right now that we take time to pause and clean up the donor information that we have. You need to go through, this is my least fun thing to do. I will just be incredibly honest. So telling other people to do it, hurts my soul a little bit. So grab a cup of coffee, put on some great music. If you, can sit outside or something, try to do that. But go through your database and really clean it up. Now's the time to delete and consolidate duplicate records and to make sure that people are linked together. It's really important to update mailing addresses and phone numbers. And again, that's something that you can do through your surveys, but it's also something that you can do. You can run through a mail service, you can run it through the postal service, and they can do a verification check to throw out bad addresses so that you're not wasting money or resources on, if you decide to mail something, to mailing it to bad addresses. Now is the time to make sure that if you have multiple systems, to make sure that they're talking to each other, so that if you have an email address, it's talking to your email server. It's the time, if you're doing any sort of donor research or wealth screening, to upload and integrate that information so it's all there together. There's also services that you can use that update email lists. So running your email list and scrubbing and make sure that you have the correct email lists, deleting duplicates. And then now is also the time, if you have a reporting process in a donor or member survey situation, or a CRM, so a donor database, now is the time to build out your reports. We all have those reports that we know we're going to need and we're going to need to look at, but sometimes we have to go in and recreate the wheel to run those reports. In most CRM systems, and this is even something where you can get on the phone with a representative, but I highly suggest that you start having those reports run automatically and start getting them either, the first day or the last day of the month, and starting to have some of those ready based on what our planning process was, what we know that we really need to be focusing on. Start running those reports and get those set up. This is kind of all time consuming back end work, but it's really going to pay off right now, because our donors are right now, because we're still in the middle of COVID, I would say we don't have COVID fatigue right now. It is projected that COVID fatigue is probably going to start at the end of this year and beginning of next year. And so that's where it's going to be people are still being very generous, are giving more and above and beyond. To causes that they are incredibly that they care about incredibly, but to those organizations that they maybe gave an annual gift to, they're pulling back on. So we want to help build the relationship and make sure that through our communication and through correct information and data, that we are communicating with our donors in a way that reaches them, so they get our communication, and that we can integrate so that a mail piece maybe follows up with an email, which follows up with a phone call. And that's all through our database management. That's going to be really important to making sure that we are communicating correctly. Oh, also, great resource. The Fundraising Effectiveness Project is a great resource. And what you can do is you can actually run a report through the Fundraising Effectiveness Project, and it can also help you with some of your retention rates, donor rates, and how your gifts break down. So this kind of all comes together in a report that you can also set up to run quarterly. And that would be something that I would suggest you run at least annually, but also look at quarterly. And that's a really great, easy report to pull. And so it's if you type in Fundraising Effectiveness Project, or I believe the website is afp.fep.org. Okay, so now we're going to talk about donor segmentation. Again, this is something that can come from doing some of your donor surveys, but now is the time, again, to spend time with your donor segmentations and to really look at how you can create different donor journeys and experiences. There's a lot of noise out there right now, and how you can break through the noise with your donors or your members is to take some of that survey data, if you will, and look at some basic segmentation practices. If I give you $25 every year, and that's all I do, I should not be receiving the same communication as someone that gives $1,000, because I'm in a different place in my relationship with your organization. I might still need to be being educated about your organization, or need to know a little bit more about what you're doing, because with my $25, while it's still an important gift, you're probably not in my top priority. Whereas somebody who's giving $1,000, I am more bought into your mission and have made a statement that you are important to me. So my level of knowledge of your organization and the information that I'm going to want from you is going to be different. So easy ways that you can communicate and look at how you want to segment your donors. Again, that could come back from a survey. Or also just conversations. You know your donors best. And so things to look at is communication preference and frequency. So as a millennial, I do love my email. I love my email and I love my social media. So maybe that's where you need to be targeting messages for your millennial generation. Maybe I am someone that is like, only send me direct mail. I only want direct mail. I don't want to hear anything else. Or I could be somebody that says, please don't ever mail me ever again. Going back and looking at asking about donor communication, but also looking back and seeing how people have given in the past and getting a report, that can really tell you a lot about how to segment your donors. So if I only give at events, then you need to be communicating with me better through those events. If I only have given to you through direct mail, maybe don't send me emails or other communications and focus me as a direct mail donor. That way you are creating a journey that fits my style best, and then also not wasting my time or your time by kind of doing the old spray and pray method, if you will, which everyone's going to get everything, and we're going to hope that they respond just because they're going to see us more. That's not always the case. There are some organizations that I will tell you in December, I only give to on Giving Tuesday, or I only give to at their year-end campaign. And knowing that cadence, it's really, I really appreciate it when I only get those appeals instead of get my email or my mailbox flooded any other time throughout the year. So that's a really easy one. Annual or cumulative support levels. So it shouldn't just be how much I've given. It should be on a single gift. It should be either how much cumulatively I've given, or how much. You can do it either way. So you can either do it, okay, Katie gives between, our donors give under $100, they're going to get this message. Our donors who give $100 to $250, they're going to get this message. Or you can do it as a lifetime value. Katie has given this much over the years, or has given this many years. Those are great segmentations that you can break out easily. And then you can also reference those in communications with make people feel special. Something that I've seen people do a really great job of right now is people are honoring anniversaries of length of how many times they've given, or dollar amounts, and are going and saying, thank you so much. You have supported us at over $500 since you started giving, and we're so grateful. That's not only a great cultivation and stewardship piece, it also is a great conversation starter to, we'd love for you to consider upgrading your gift or things of that nature. But creating those different pathways are really important. Again, generational cohort, I do think that there's some truth to how generations like to be communicated with. So you do need to be very good at both kind of digital and analog, if you will. You can't just be all digital or all analog. There really needs to be an integration of both of those, but also go and look at donor trends. We do know that donors 55 and older really do still respond to direct mail. And while direct mail is not dead for millennials, it's a different kind of direct mail. As a millennial, I don't want the long letter. I want a postcard that's going to send me to a website. And so being able to create those different donor journeys is incredibly important. Segmentation, so advanced segmentation. Again, this is something that could come from your survey. If there is a specific program or mission interest, only you can send people just things that are specific to their interests. You can also look at emotional resonance, which is what we do here at Proof. Then there's multiple levels of engagement. So if you know someone's a board member, a donor, and a volunteer, they need to be getting all of those different pieces, and those should all be different. So if I'm a donor and a board member and a volunteer, I should be getting different types of communications, but I should be getting all of that. Or if I'm just a donor or a volunteer, I should be getting those. Or if I'm just a volunteer, really make sure that you know the roles and the levels of engagement of people and create those segmentations. There's also upgrading. So if you know that I, Katie Lord, have only given you $25 for 3 years, there needs to be an upgrading. So you need to look back at 3-year cycles of donors. And on the 3rd year, it is appropriate to ask for an upgraded gift. And so you could segment based on past giving history for a 3-year cycle. And then also Legacy Society. So any of those individuals that you know are thinking of planned gifts, have committed to giving you a planned gift, or are a prospect for planned gifts, we do need to be having those conversations. The wealth transfer is coming. It is going to happen in the next 20 years. And a lot of people don't want to leave all their money to their children. So having a different segmentation for people that are targeted for your Legacy Society, they should be getting that different type of communication. So we have a story to tell, and storytelling is incredibly important right now. Right now, I'm going to tell you, we are still in what I would consider crisis communication. So we need to be over communicating, but that doesn't mean oversharing. So what I mean by that is this: crisis communication is as much information as we feel comfortable giving to people, we need to be doing that in a frequent and succinct way. It's okay if you have, an event that's coming up, and if you don't know if it's going to be virtual or in person yet, it's okay to say, we are moving forward with plans. We are still unclear if it's going to be in person or virtual, but save the date anyways. Here's the date. Give people the information that you have as up to the minute as you have, but also don't overshare. Nobody right now wants to hear that you are in crisis. Everyone's in crisis. So that's not a differentiating message right now. The sector as a whole is down, and nonprofits as a whole are suffering. With that being said, it is really important that donors feel that they are still making an impact, but that the ship isn't sinking. People have a limited number of resources, and people like to give to organizations that are winning. Now, that doesn't mean you can't say we are struggling right now, or we're having to decide between this program and that program. That's fine. But just saying, having kind of a blanket Chicken Little, the sky is falling, COVID's terrible, that's not the right message we need to have. How we need to frame our stories, and especially for organizations that are not directly impacted by COVID. That's the number one thing I hate hearing right now. I'm just going to be completely honest. I hate it when people say, well, we're not direct relief, so we're not important. That is not true. In fact, I would say COVID is exacerbating absolutely every organization. What is so important right now, and that I think environmental organizations can really tap into, is everybody wants to be outdoors. You are vital right now to social distancing, to people's mental health, to the preservation of the planet. I think I read somewhere that like actually our emissions have gone down during COVID because most people aren't driving. So how do we keep that going? How can we do things in our own backyard that help? So it's really important to frame your message as, yes, COVID is impacting us. Here is how it is impacting us, but here's how we are helping in the COVID crisis. We are, like I said, every organization is still doing something. There is not an organization that is not doing their part, if you will. Also, we're getting ready to go into the winter months. So how can you bring the outdoors indoors? How can you prepare for winter sports or winter activities that maybe people didn't do but are going to be more inclined to do this year? So framing and how you tell your story is, yes, you are still impacted, but here's how you are still able to help and to give people an outlet, and to how, you know, you're more important than ever given the current circumstances. And like I said, overshare, undershare. Overshare internally, undershare externally. So everyone in your organization needs to know where you're at. They need to know what the communication needs to be externally, but also, while you are sharing things as you know it, you don't need to overshare externally with, you know, we don't know what's going to happen, and, you know, here's every plan that we're trying to do. We need to give as up-to-the-date information as we can. Right now is a great time, like I said, to celebrate donor journeys. This has been a great thing that a lot of organizations have really helped and stepped into. So, for example, if you haven't had time, now's a great time to create like a 3-part welcome series of emails if someone gives to you the first time. So the first one is just, thank you so much for your donation. Here's what you made happen. The next series could be something of, here's the initiatives that we're currently working on. You know, sign this petition. Please make sure to follow us on Facebook. And then the next one might be, here's other ways that you can get involved with us. So educating your donors, creating that welcome series so they're hearing from you, they're seeing the direct impact of your gift, and that's something you can almost fix and forget. So there's work up front, and then you can, when somebody new gives a gift, you can set it up to automatically run. Again, anniversaries or milestones. Now is the time to look back and see lifetime giving of people, to see how many years they've been giving. It's a great time for retention. So if I gave to you on December 23rd last year, maybe you send me a little postcard that's like, happy first gift anniversary. It's a cute little reminder, but it is really important to start celebrating those, as it keeps people top of mind. It shows appreciation, and it also reminds us that, like, oh, it's time to give that gift again, or if I haven't given that gift, it's time for me to start thinking about it, because they value me, they know things about me. It's, you know, it's a little bit of the Amazon experience, if you will. And then of course, Legacy Society. Ask people, now is a really good time, and I don't mean to sound opportunistic, but now is a really good time to be talking about Legacy Society and to be talking about wills. Before COVID hit, I just redid my will in March. You know, I'm 35, knock on wood, that nothing happens to me, but I did update my will, and I do have charitable organizations that I put in my will. So it's okay to bring up the Legacy Society and just start putting that, kind of dripping that into more campaigns. And, you know, it can just be a line, or it can be highlighting people or it can just be highlighting Legacy Society, or it could be time to sit down and run a little webinar or workshop with an estate planning lawyer, because a lot of people don't know how to do it. And so offering people different options and alternatives to learn is really important right now. So again, power and the pivot. Marketing and communications, frequency, internal versus external. You should be, for every internal, or excuse me, for for internal communications, you need to have multiple ways that you're communicating, especially if you're working remotely. Now is the time to have those, culture building coffees with your team. Maybe you get a Slack channel and a chat, or make sure that you're really still talking with your team at least on a weekly basis to continue to build that culture. That's something that I know a lot of nonprofits are struggling with because we're not in the office. And this also, again, helps with continuity of messaging. So as things change, people are drowning in email right now. So maybe they didn't read the email, but you can kind of hit those high points. So something just even my office did during COVID, and we continue to do, is we have 8:30 coffees every Monday morning. And we talk about everything not related to work. And then later in the week, we have a midweek review. And that's where we talk about everything work related. External. Have any of your communications need to be repurposed. So if you post something on Facebook or do an Instagram story or post, make sure that you are repeating that content and that you are using it several times. I think it used to be, we all laugh and talk about this, that we used to have the attention span of a goldfish, but now I think we're even less than the attention span of a goldfish. So repeating messages, you might feel like you're repeating a message, but me as a donor, I might not even realize I'm getting that message till the third, fourth, fifth, or sixth time. So creating a content calendar where you are repeating or repurposing messages, that is okay to do. And you can send me something in an email and post it on social and send me a flyer, all with the same message, because it might not get my attention 2 out of those 3 ways, but 1 way it will. Then there's the difference of, as far as external communication, you need to be communicating in some way, shape, or form at least twice a week. So that can be 2 social media posts, that can be an email newsletter, or a phone call, but you need to be having touch points with key donors and with people, at least with your mass communications, at least twice a week to be relevant. Now is not the time to be silent. And then content creation versus curation. So content creation, that is where you are creating brand new content. And then content curation is maybe you're sharing something from the Federation, maybe you're sharing something from a sister organization. Now is the time to reach out and have people share blog posts of other like-minded organizations. Everything doesn't have to be created just from you. It can be something that you're resharing with people and letting them and kind of know how, how things are going, what you're up to. But keeps you top of mind. So blogging would be another thing. I'm going to say pick 2. There are so many social media channels. Pick 2 and be good at them. You don't have to be on absolutely everything. So if most of your followers are Twitter and Facebook, do Twitter and Facebook. If you've got a younger demographic and you're into TikTok or Instagram and Facebook, great. Pick 2. You cannot be all things to all people, so only focus on 2 social media channels at a time. The more channels you focus on, the less good the content gets, to be quite honest with you. So our thing is know where your audience is, pick 2, and be really good at those 2. We already talked about blogging. Now is the time to also be really mindful of your search engine optimization. There's Google AdWords gives, if you haven't done Google AdWords, they give $10,000 grants to nonprofits that you can use to help with your search engine optimization. Now is the time to get really good at that. You want your organization to be one of the top ones that come up when you type in any keyword related to your organization. And then again, transparency. It's okay to say, I don't know right now, but we will know we are expecting to know by this date or time. But don't put something out there if you are unsure if it's the truth. That is where a lot of organizations are getting in trouble. So real quick, where are you spending your most time right now? Are you spending it on annual fund? Are you spending it on events? Are you spending it on phone calls? Where are you spending the most fundraising time? Or maybe you're just in the planning stages, maybe you're pivoting, but I'd love to just have some answers on where are you spending your time fundraising? Or doing virtual events, planning for virtual events? Anyone? All right. Well, I'm not, oh, there we go. Direct mail, content for virtual events. Great. Virtual conferences, direct mail. Yay, donor database transition. Go, Greg. Social media outreach. Great. Excellent. All wonderful things. So things I want to talk about right now are acquisition versus retention. Direct mail and social. Excellent. Awesome. Right now, things we want to focus on, acquisition versus retention. I'm going to tell you right now, you need to be focusing more on retention than on acquisition. Acquisition is hard in general. We know that at least 50% of people who give one time are not going to come back. They're not going to be repeat donors. And I believe the number is actually up to 60% right now, the latest number I read. It is harder to acquire a donor than to keep a donor that you already have. That's the same in sales. That's the same in membership. That's the same in everything. Now is the time where we really want to be focusing on our retention efforts. So using our direct mail, our social media outreach, not just to talk to new audiences, but really focus on the audience and the community that you already have and speak to what we know works there. Now is the time to run retention campaigns. So we're going to, there's two kind of industry phrases called the lie bunt and the sigh bunt. Run those lists. The lie bunt is last year, but not this year. So who's everyone that has lapsed in the last year? Those are the people you need to be calling and targeting because maybe they just forgot, maybe something came up, but those are our donors that we know care, but maybe something happened. We need to engage our donors. We need to be calling and checking on them. We need to be thanking and profusely stewarding the donors that we currently have. And then we need to be asking for upgraded gifts. Now is really the time to ask for upgraded gifts, look at monthly donations, and really start to have some of those conversations, to run those lists and see maybe people have given the same amount for the last several years and just start come up with. So I'm gonna say right now, you need to be spending 70% of your time on retention and 30% of your time on acquisition. The fish that are in your own pond are the ones that already love you, know you, and want to see you succeed more. So that's really your audience right now. Acquisition, because of COVID, is really hard, even harder than it has been previously because people are getting bombarded with so many messages. And we're seeing right now, like I said, that people actually aren't giving, maybe have given 1 or 2 gifts to COVID relief, but are really actually going back to the charities that they're already really engaged with and giving more there than actually spreading around to a lot of new organizations. So annual fund and year-end giving, this is your highest potential for growth. Your middle donors, so the donors that are giving, you know, I would say between $250 to $500 a year, this is your middle donor pipeline. These are the people that you have a lot of opportunity to continue to grow a relationship with. So coming up with a special kind of mid-tier donor campaign is something that you should really be looking at because these are the donors that have the highest probability of growing with you currently. Monthly donors. I think if there's anything we've learned from COVID is that monthly donations are vital to providing stability for our organizations. If you do not have a monthly giving program, now is the time to start one, and really equating it in the donor's mind of, you know, $10 a month is $120 by the end of the year, you know, and talking about how it's income that we can count on, we can rely on, and it helps us, you know, maintain our priorities throughout the year. The one thing I will tell you not to do in a monthly giving ask, do not equate it to a Starbucks or something like that. Especially for the millennials, but actually for every generation, I'm still going to buy my cup of coffee. So don't say, you know, give up a Starbucks or eating out once a month and you can do our monthly giving. I don't want to give up anything. You are in addition to what I'm already going to do. So talk to me more about what that $10 impact can create by the end of the year and how you can count on it. Monthly donors have a 95% retention rate. They are our best donors and they have the longest loyalty and longevity with us. So monthly donors are a great place to be starting. It's a lower acquisition cost. And it's something that I would say, as you're definitely going into year end, don't just be asking for the year end gift, ask for a year end gift, and then for them to sign up for your monthly giving program and really spend some time creating that. Monthly giving is going to be what sustains organizations as well as annual giving moving forwards, because I think what we've seen is, major donors and major giving can fluctuate based on the economy and other things. Direct mail is not dead. I love direct mail. I don't know about everyone else, but my mailbox has been very quiet the past few months. Now is a great time, even before the end of the year, kind of in these in-between months, to be thinking about and doing your direct mail campaign. You definitely need to do a direct mail, and that would also be something where you can do the traditional letter for maybe divide that up a little bit by age cohort, and then also maybe do a postcard or something driving people to a landing page online for your kind of Xers and millennials. Peer-to-peer challenges. Reach out to everyone and ask them to do a Facebook fundraiser or create some sort of fun peer-to-peer challenge where maybe all of your board members are going to have a competition to see who can raise the most money for a certain week or something like that. People still give to people, and they still give to their friends that are supporting their friends' causes. And so that is a lower cost acquisition piece. If you're going to do acquisition, that is how I would suggest you do it, because as opposed to spending a lot of money on doing like acquisition direct mail. And then Giving Tuesday. Giving Tuesday is still a thing. We had Giving Tuesday Now a few months ago, which was in May, right when COVID came for COVID release. It raised over $500 million, and there is nothing to think, there is no evidence to think that is going to have any impact on what Giving Tuesday is going to do in December. Because again, people are still in the, I want to do something. And also just because of flu season and weather and things, people want to be kind of the armchair superhero, if you will. And so providing easy and fun ways for people to give on Giving Tuesday, that is a great way. It's one of those things that I hear a lot of this. Well, Katie, there's so much noise on Giving Tuesday, and everyone's being bombarded that I don't want to do Giving Tuesday. That's fine. Pick a random day and do a Giving Day if you don't want to do it on Giving Tuesday. But it's one of those things where the expectation is you're going to be doing something on Giving Tuesday, so it's noticeable those who aren't. But if you have a day that you'd rather, do a Giving Day, then start promoting it and make it your own Giving Day. Okay, virtual events. Lot of information here on virtual events. Promotion and timeline. I have not seen virtual events, because they are virtual, being promoted more than 6 weeks out. And I think this is a really good timeline. Now, you might be planning them much longer than that, but really 6 weeks out is when I would say, if you're going to be doing a virtual event, virtual conference, something of that nature, start planning, start promoting it. People are very last minute decision makers right now. And that's something that I hate, but it's also a truth of the matter. You can still be talking to your sponsors and all of your high level donors prior to that 6 weeks, like I said, but really have a 6 week window where you're going to be promoting that virtual event, signing people up, doing the auction or whatever, but don't do it much outside of that 6 weeks, because my sense of urgency is going to, I'm going to kind of put you on the back burner. I'm not making decisions more than a month to 6 weeks ahead of time. And so you're going to get lost in the communication. So really focus on that 6 weeks out. There is a lot of last minute decision making. People understand that. I just had an event that I've gone to annually that just decided to switch it to virtual, and it's next month. So people are being very cognizant and understanding. But again, that 6 week timeline is pretty much the attention that you're going to get. Registration, user guides. User guides are so important, especially when you are sending out an email invitation, attach a user guide. While we all assume that everyone knows every platform now that we've been working from home or virtual, people still don't. I still don't. So it's, especially if you're going to use a production company, have a one pager of how someone can register, how they can add, emails, or how they can bid on things. It can just be screenshots, but really include that user guide. If it's too hard, or if it's something that I feel uncomfortable with, I'm just not going to do it. So include user guides in registration. Have multiple levels and pricing. So there's been a lot of discussion on if events should be free or if there should be tickets, and I'm going to say yes. So the answer is both. You need to have a free option so that you can reach out to more people. You can have that acquisition piece and that where they can watch things, but you also do need to have a ticketed level. So something that I think is really fun is coming up with a creative, kit or drop off or something that people can have. So if they want to have a little party at their house. So I just signed up for one that I thought it's really, I think, a unique thing. And so what they did is they created like a little campfire. It's for a camp. And so they created a little camp kit. So I got some branded, little wine coolers. I got some, a s'mores kit, and then I got a little lantern. And so we're having a fireside camp out tonight as part of their event. I've seen the cocktail kits. I've seen the charcuterie boards and all of that, but do something really fun. If there's something that you can do to get kids involved, the more the better. Those are things that I'm seeing people really want to purchase. If you can have someone, I've done a couple of virtual wine tastings where we've beamed in somebody from California and they're walking us through a wine tasting and things like that. Be creative, but kits are key. So they don't have to be super expensive kits. I mean, again, it was a kit for, a s'mores night at my house, but that was something I was willing to pay the extra ticket for, not only because they could equate it to this will help pay for one kid's camp, but they were also able to make it something fun and unique and something that I wouldn't normally think to have a camp out in my house with some of my friends. So kits are key if you're going to charge a ticket price. You cannot just charge a ticket price for content with no kind of little extras right now. That's not being responded to well as a rule. Also, mobile bidding is key. So having things where not only can people get on the computer, but they can also bid and interact with you on their phone. There's a lot, I think every CRM is doing. The organization that I really like to use is One Cause or Greater Giving. Both of those I think are great organizations, but there are many platforms out there, but you need to have everything integrated and working on multiple technologies. Pre-production, so live events. I am a huge fan if you are doing some sort of gala for it to be a pre-recording. That way transitions are smoother. You can still have people come and ask questions or be present after there's some sort of pre-recording and have some sort of element of engagement. But as far as the actual program, it really needs to be pre-recorded. That way you know that the audio is working correctly, the lighting's good, and the production value is something that people want to watch. As opposed to live events, conferences, and webinars, those are totally fine to have as live events. But as far as a gala type event or fundraiser, really try to go to pre-recording. Keep them 45 minutes or less. We all have Zoom fatigue. We don't want to be on a gala for more than 45 minutes. If something, the ones that I've seen raise the most money and be the most successful are between 30 and 45 minutes. The ones that go an hour, some people still kind of lose interest and jump off. So I would say have a pre-recorded program, try to keep them around 45 minutes. If you do a need, try to have some sort of virtual thermometer. But really try to keep it. There's one that's coming up that's an hour and a half. They're really trying to keep it like the actual event, and we're having a hard time getting that out to our donors, because nobody wants to do an hour and a half Zoom call. They're already on Zoom all day, every day. Again, sound and lighting is incredibly important. You need to be at a studio or someplace where you can control the lighting and the sound. There's nothing more frustrating for people if you can't hear what somebody's saying, and that is a huge inflection point when there's technical difficulties for people to jump off or to lose interest, which is again a point for pre-recording. What works really well is if you have an event, have like a live launch, so the video is going to drop or the event's going to happen at 7:30 on Friday night, but then also have it available for people who maybe had something come up or they weren't able to watch. Have it available for a week at least afterwards, the recording of it, so people can go in, watch, still get the programming and the messaging, and then make their donation that way. Don't just have it as a one and done. And again, access is incredibly important. So make sure if you are going to do a Zoom or a webinar that you have the bandwidth and the internet set up to be able to support this, that you have the production, you've tested things, so that nothing can be more frustrating when you're in the middle of a call and then something freezes because the internet went down or something like that. So those are things to be mindful of. So here's some do's and don'ts of virtual events. Do ask early and ask often throughout your event. Most of the time we have the fund and need, or we have something else that's going on at a live event where other people are being asked, but because we're not in that setting, you need to make your ask within the first 10 minutes. You know, we are here to ask you to join in supporting our organization, and bring it up multiple times throughout. Don't just wait for the fund and need. Ask, give people different ways to ask, remind people if there's a live auction or silent auction or something coming up, but ask, ask, ask. Do not wait until you're 30 minutes into the program. That's time that's been wasted. Again, don't make the event too long. You know, do add interactive elements. So even if you're going to do something like this, have a poll or, you know, a hashtag where people can post what they're doing or take a picture and put the hashtag in. I'm a big fan of having like small group chats or enabling chat at some point so that people can, you know, say, hi, I'm Katie, I'm from, you know, Kansas City, Missouri, joining this live event. That way you can also see where people are from, because you're going to have a larger audience. There's times to do that. Don't wing it. I think we all know that. Don't wing it. Have a script, do a run through. And then also something you need to be thinking about, you might not be doing it this year, but hybrid is coming. So how can you create virtual elements of events moving forward and in-person events? Maybe you do small group gatherings and a virtual component. But really start thinking, especially now that we are comfortable with virtual events, the expectation is there's going to be some sort of virtual component coming to in-person events in general. Start thinking about that and start creating plans. It is not too early. So I'm running a little bit low on time here, but some events ideas. You know, there is still the gala and the auction. There's bingo and trivias. There's cooking and cocktail demonstrations and wine tastings. I've seen some where like there's the arts and crafts where like you do a family craft together. Virtual tours are becoming really cool. Artistic performances. If you can take someone out on like a nature walk right now and point out different things in nature, that's great. Virtual walks and runs are going really well. Kind of grab your friends and go outside and you know, creating like hiking paths or something. Those types of things are really fun, and you are limited by your imagination, but honestly, user experience is the difference between fame and flop. So how you get your message out and how you create a fun experience, even virtually, is going to be the difference between fame and flop. Real quick, stewardship, and then I'll finish up here. Stewardship is the most important activity you can be doing right now. So personalization is key. If you're going to send out a direct mail, do not send Dear Friend right now. The days of Dear Friend are over. You need to be personalizing every message that goes out. So it should say, Dear Katie Lord, Dear Mr. and Mrs., Dear so-and-so. Do not do Dear Friend. Dear Friend is really turning people off, you have the time to segment and to create personalization and to create personalization throughout. So maybe you have 2 or 3 places where you can mail merge and put something in that says, "Dear Katie, we appreciate that this is your 10th anniversary of giving. We would like to thank you for your support," whatever. You can still have personalization and automation together. That's the welcome series. That's where you can create letters to go out for anniversaries and things. You can set things up to where they go out in our emails, but they feel personalized because they have my name and they have 1 or 2 things about me. They know, you know, the program that I'm interested in. You know, check up and check in. Pick up the phone. People are picking up their phone. They want to talk right now. Texting is okay. "Hey, just thinking about you today. You know, saw this thing and was just thinking about you today. Want to make sure you're doing well. Thinking of you." Do that often. And engagement and premiums. No, you don't have to send everyone out a water bottle or a mask or something like that. But now is really the time to think of something little that you can drop off, or a mail piece, a handwritten note. Those are the things that are really important right now. So again, pick up the phone, make a, have a conversation. And some of my favorite stewardship posts are tagging people in Instagram stories. If you do a story, tagging people, resharing their content, saying thank you. There is a company called TouchNote and one called Punk Post, where you can send postcards to people that are personalized, but they're done by an artist, or you drop in a picture that's specific to that person. And then Zazzle and Vistaprint has some really great postcards and things to send out. I have been using the mail service, not just for direct mail, but just for little cards, thinking of you, you know, sending out little, hey, you're awesome cards. And the response I'm getting has been fantastic. So things don't have to be expensive to be meaningful, but it really is important for you to have a touch point and a stewardship plan. Send people articles, even if it's tagging them in an online post. That is a stewardship, and that is incredibly important right now. So I'm sorry, I think I ran a little bit over, but here's my information. I'm at Katie_Lord360 on Instagram. I'm at Katie Lord on LinkedIn. Here's Proof Positioning's information, so you can get my email that way. And if there's any questions, I think we've got maybe time for a couple of questions. Thank you all so much for listening. I think that Michelle is going to share the slides, and if you have any questions about them, or if I can just be of any value to you and your organization, or you'd like to talk through, please feel free to reach out to me. I'm always happy to help and talk through things.
Thank you, Katie, so much. That was brilliant. What a wealth of knowledge. We certainly appreciate you joining us again. And wow, just a ton of great information. So thanks again, and appreciate all you do to help us and get the message out to all our affiliates.
Thank you.
We got time for a question or two, it looks like. Anybody wants to type one in? We're waiting on that. Certainly want to thank First Vice President Richard Mendenhall for introducing Katie and that very meaningful tribute on this day that we all remember of 9/11. So thanks for doing that, Richard. Appreciate all you do for us and the board. Any questions coming in?
Don't see any.
You answered all our questions,
All
Katie.
right. Well, if you think of something later, like I said, everyone, feel free to reach out. Thank you so much. And if I can be of any further value, let me know. I really appreciate all the work you guys are doing at Conservation Federation, and I'm so happy to be back this year talking. So thank you. Have a great day.
Thanks, Katie. All right. Up next is the Director of Conservation Programs Partnerships, Geraldine Hoy from the National Wildlife Federation. If you joined us last night, you heard from Colin, our President and CEO of the National Wildlife Federation, and Geraldine's going to come talk to you and give you some updates on some more things as they relate to Missouri, and certainly appreciate all the great work that she does and everything there in the National Wildlife Federation. So we will turn it over to Geraldine.
All right. Thanks, Tyler.
I am here in Austin, Texas. Thanks for the introduction and letting me join the summit and having Colin speak last night. For those of you who don't know me, I work at National Wildlife Federation, working with affiliates in Missouri, Arkansas, Louisiana, Mississippi, and many other places around the country. That's my main focus, and working closely with Tyler and other staff on a lot of national initiatives, but also opportunities to partner on efforts there in the state on policy and program and on the ground. And it may also be board development and strategic planning, so a wide variety of stuff. And I'm so excited to continue the work with CFM and kind of where we are and where we're headed. I wanted to start out today covering a few national policy and legislative efforts. On the national front, we're really pleased to have a successful passage of the Great American Outdoors Act, which many of you were involved with moving that forward and outreach. And just as a reminder, the bill improves maintenance on public lands, and it fully funds the Land and Water Conservation Fund. And Senator Blunt was a co-sponsor, and half of the Missouri House delegation voted in favor. So we're so pleased of the huge support we had from the Missouri delegation on that passage. Although there's no current outreach asks today that I'm sharing with you, I did want to cover a few efforts that we continue to work on. One, which I've been talking about at the summit for many years, is the Recovering America's Wildlife Act, and it is still a high priority for NWF and our Federation family. CFM, especially Tyler and many of you, have been great partners to move it forward where we are right now. As a reminder, under the Recovering America's Wildlife Act, Missouri would receive roughly $23 million annually to help the species of greatest concern. That's, according to your state wildlife plans, about 600 species in Missouri, to keep them off of the endangered species list. The bill already has strong bipartisan support from Missouri delegation, the House delegation with Republican Long joining Democrats Cleaver and Clay as co-sponsors in the House. We are currently looking for Senate leaders to introduce the bill, and we are hoping that Senator Blunt, showing his support of the Great American Outdoors Act and other bills, the conservation bills this past year, would step up and really become that champion to introduce it this fall, hopefully. Tyler's working closely with NWF policy and communication staff on outreach to Blunt's office, educating them and just generally developing a stronger relationship with his staff there, in hopes to move Senator Blunt to be that leader that we're hoping he will be on conservation. If you've got any questions about that, or suggestions or ideas on additional outreach related to recovering, reach out to Tyler. He's, like I said, playing a very strong lead role in that outreach in Missouri, and you should see some stuff in the paper and other outreach efforts coming up soon that he's working on. So definitely reach out to him if you've got suggestions or ideas. Another bill that was introduced earlier in 2020, it's finally moving along, is the American Conservation Enhancement Act, the ACE bill. The House and Senate reached an agreement kind of behind the scenes on some minor changes that were holding it up, and it could move as a non-controversial bipartisan bill through both chambers this month. It's kind of quiet and behind the scenes, so we're not doing any specific outreach on it, but that's the goal anyway, is to move that forward. Just a couple of things that are included in the ACE Act are establishing a chronic wasting disease task force, creating a commission to study the pathways and mechanisms of the transmission of CWD in the U.S., reauthorizing the North American Wetlands Conservation Act until 2025, encouraging partnerships among public agencies to promote fish conservation, and that may include Asian carp efforts, reauthorizing Chesapeake Bay program and Gateways and Water Trails Network in the Chesapeake Bay until 2025, and that grant program that supports those restoration efforts there. Reauthorizing the Fish and Wildlife Foundation Act until 2025, and several other things that I can send over to Tyler to share out with everybody, but that's a broad-ranging conservation bill that we are hoping to move forward this fall. It seems, as Colin mentioned last night, conservation seems to be the one thing that is pulling folks together right now, and it's nice to see. Other policy efforts that are underway include, possibly, if they can make it happen, the COVID relief legislation, and advocating to include a recovery package that puts people back to work. As Colin mentioned last night, that may be in some conservation work or restoring our natural resources and enhancing the general outdoor economy. Water Resources Development Act, or WRDA, is being negotiated right now, and there's additional work on infrastructure, general funding, energy, public lands, a lot of different things, but I'm not going to go into all of those today. If you've got questions about any of the policy work happening, please reach out to me or Tyler, and we can get you connected to the experts in DC working in detail on any of those. I did want to share an effort that we've been in conversations with with many of our affiliates up and down the Mississippi River over the last 6 to 8 months. And this is an effort that we're hoping CFM will play a key role in to represent Missouri, which is the Mississippi River Restoration and Resilience Initiative. The coalition members, together with Representative McCollum's leadership from Ohio, they're envisioning a federally funded effort that coordinates Mississippi River restoration planning activities and directs funding through existing federal grant programs to look at the 10 states up and down the Mississippi River, the main stem corridor. We are, the initiative really focuses on 4 main things: nutrient pollution, invasive species control and eradication, natural infrastructure, and resilience in floodplains. And that part of the key to moving this forward, again, like Recovering America's Wildlife Act, is to get some leaders. And we are hoping that possibly Senator Sam Graves and Senator Blunt will be some of those high profile leaders to move this initiative forward as bills are developed. And so we're hoping to work very closely with CFM as the Missouri leader in that initiative over the next several years to make that happen. And lastly, I wanted to mention that NWF is kind of a fun project working with CFM over the next year on a monarch and pollinator habitat project in partnership with Merrimack Spring Park in St. James. We got some funding and to really do some habitat enhancement along the roadways in the area, and also provide some trainings to private landowners that are adjacent to the park, in hopes that they'll develop monarch and pollinator habitat on their properties as well. The last thing I wanted to mention that is coming up, that's program related, the Women in Conservation Leadership Summit is October 13th through 15th. Out of an abundance of caution, just like this meeting today, with COVID-19, we transitioned that to a virtual platform. Although registration is closed, I wanted to share a little bit about that, that summit and program. We're really excited to host this third summit, and the vision for WCL, as we nicely call it, is stronger conservation through women leaders of all ethnicities, races, and cultures. And to realize that vision, we really needed to acknowledge the conservation movement, and WCL has been distinctively white, white people. As part of this shift to the virtual platform, we are adjusting the content to really center our training and our discussions on racial equity and justice. And although we've had to close registration because we were limited to 600 participants and we maxed out, we are really happy to have Michaela and Mossy attending the event to represent CFM. So as follow up after the meeting, I'm hopeful that they can share out some of the learning from those competencies and other things that came out of the training. For more information about it, just in general and where we're headed with the Women in Conservation Leadership Initiative, you can go to wcl.nwf.org. This is, it's got a bunch of information on there. You can sign up for the listserv and get more information to share and learn. It's not extensive information, so your email's not bombarded, but certainly sign up there. I also, as it relates to WCL, wanted to share a very special thank you to Nicole Wood, NWF and CFM past board member. And honestly, without Nicole's leadership and support, the WCL program would not exist. She has been there from day one with the idea and continues to support it and be a leader in moving that forward. Additionally, we are so excited to have Sarah Parker-Polly on the WCL advisory committee, sharing her advice and thoughts as we continue to grow and develop it. And so we're extremely grateful for both Sarah and Nicole's leadership to move WCL forward. If anybody'd like to reach out to me with questions, I am happy to share anything we've talked about today or anything else. If you've got questions, let me know. You can email me at hoyg, H-O-E-Y-G, @nwf.org. And after I'm done here, I'll put that in the chat unless somebody already has. So Tyler, hopefully I've hit some high points and priorities, and I really thank you again for letting me be a part of the summit.
Thanks, Geraldine. Appreciate your strong leadership, great communication, and we certainly look forward to growing our partnership. And I just appreciate all that you do, the information that you get to us, and working with our staff and team is very much appreciated. So thanks for all that you do. And and as it kind of relates to NWF, we have a representative and an alternate representative that represents CFM to NWF. And through the passing of Ron Coleman, we've got some new leadership that are taking over. And so we are proud to announce that Joe Engel is the new NWF rep, and Dana Ripper is the alternative rep. And so they both sit on our board of directors, and so look forward to engaging them and great resources moving forward. So it's exciting to have them two on also engaging with NWF issues. Looks like we got a question that came in.
DC posted, Geraldine, does the ACE bill include funding as well as authorization to create the various elements?
Yeah, it's my understanding that it is existing funding for a lot of different things. And DC, I'll follow up with some additional information. I've got some letters and some blogs and some other things that shared a little bit more detail on it that I could here today in my limited time. I'll email that to you and Tyler, and you can share that around. And then the contact is Mike Leahy in our DC office, who's the lead on that. It was introduced back in January, so it's come a long way, but I will definitely follow up with more intel on that.
Any more questions? Nope. Great. Thanks again, Geraldine. Appreciate your time and appreciate you joining us today.
Thanks.
All right, we've got 2 more presentations. They're both recorded videos that we're going to share with you. Next up is Jeff Blystone, life member, executive committee member, board member, and Jeff's involved in so many great organizations, not only CFM, but so many of our affiliates, and we're excited to have him talk about resource advisory committees and how that you all can get involved. So we've got a video that he's pre-recorded, and we're going to play that for you now.
Hi, my name is Jeff Blystone, and I'm out here on this hot, muggy August day practicing, so I'll be ready when the cool fall weather in October comes. But today I wanted to talk to you about something very important within CFM structure, and those are resource advisory committees. These committees are made up of all volunteers from CFM membership, and they play a very important role at CFM. They are responsible for writing resolutions and coming up with policy statements within the CFM platform on conservation and natural resource issues. Now, these resolutions can be opposing or supporting, or they can be considered a letter of advisement. So, anyone concerned with a conservation or a natural resource issue can request the committee to review it. The topics come from CFM members. They come from Resource Advisory Committee members, and a lot of them come from the CFM student organization called the Conservation Leadership Corps. These guys actually have a fall workshop where they work on resolution processes to submit to the committees. The topics, once they're submitted to the individual committee, the appropriate committee, they're discussed, they're debated, and they're researched by the appropriate RAC. If the committee membership feels like the issue or topic is worthy of a resolution, then we get to work and draft a resolution. There's a very specific format, which you can learn about on the website, on how resolutions are written. So we spend a lot of time perfecting these resolutions, and then as a final check, they're sent to the resolutions committee. The resolutions committee reviews it and suggests edit changes or like, and if they approve it, then it'll go on to the convention. So there are 10 resource advisory committees. And they cover everything from archery to wetlands to prairies to forest to lakes and rivers and fisheries. So there's something there you can volunteer for, some cause that you are very concerned about, I'm sure. Some of the resolutions that the committees have worked on in the recent years have been raising posting fines. We also did a resolution last year, a committee did a resolution to halt the planting of non-native invasive species on Missouri public land. There's a resolution about supporting the Rock Island Trail. There's another recent resolution that paid off. The governor just signed the bill supporting snack stick legislation and share the harvest. In other words, we had to change one word in the legislation, the word frozen venison, to allow us to do self-stable venison snacks. We've also worked on the eradication of feral hogs, and one other one that I thought was great come out of the environmental committee was the support for a net zero greenhouse gas plan. Now this is a plan. We don't even have a plan in Missouri, so we're urging that Missouri legislators get a plan going. So if the resolution committee agrees that the resolution is well written and researched and approves it, Then it goes to the annual CFM convention in March. At that convention, the resolution is presented at the appropriate RAC, or Resource Advisory Committee meeting. Now, those meetings are attended by all members of CFM. All you got to do is show up and attend the meeting. And at that meeting, we discuss and we debate. Sometimes we edit the resolution. And then finally, we take a vote. And if you're a CFM member, you get a vote on whether the resolution passes from the committee or not. If it passes, it goes on to be reviewed and put on the docket for the next day's general meeting, where it will be voted on by the entire general membership. If it does not pass committee, it dies right there. So if we pass it in general membership by general membership vote, it then becomes an official policy statement of the CFM platform, and it is mailed to the appropriate entity. That could be the Missouri Department of Conservation, that could be the Missouri Department of Natural Resources, could be the state legislature, could be the governor, could be the federal legislature. So it's mailed, and we expect an answer. Those answers you can find on the website, the answers to any resolutions that we submitted. So this is a long process, but it's a very necessary process to ensure that CFM resolutions are thought out, stated correctly, and represent CFM's stance on any particular issue. Okay, so I can see the wheels turning in your head. You're thinking, man, that's a lot of wrangling just to get the horses in the corral. And you'd be right. But it's necessary to get it right, to make sure we make the right statement on the right issue at the right time. You're also asking yourself, well, how much time is this going to take? And how do I get involved with one of these committees? And is it really worth it? So, yeah, it can take a significant amount of time. I've been involved with the committee since 2014, and depending on the year and how many resolutions you have, it can be a significant amount of time. Because you're expected to do research, you're expected to discuss it with your other committee members, you're expected to draft, edit, rewrite, whatever it takes to get it correct. But the good news is all of this is usually done via email, messaging, virtual meetings, or phone calls. Once a year, we all try to get to the convention to make sure we meet in person and we all understand the issue and it's important enough to be voted on at that time. So one time a year, you're going to travel to Jeff City and make a commitment to be there, and you should be there anyway. But most of the rest of the year, it can be handled remotely. So how do I get on a committee? That's pretty easy. We're going to walk inside to the computer and I'll show you exactly how it's done. Okay, so we're indoors here and we've pulled up the Conservation Federation of Missouri's homepage. Take your mouse and you go over this button at the top called About, and you'll drop down to Resource Advisory Committees, fourth one down. Click on that. Takes a couple minutes, and then a list of the Resource Advisory Committees comes up. You can see there's archery, shooting sports, big game, education, environment, forest, grasslands, private lands, public lands, rivers, streams, upland wildlife, and wetlands. So you can look at those 10 committees, pick the topics that most interest you, and then go back up here to the top of the website. Only we're going to go over to the third button over called Programs. And then we're going to go down to Actions. We're going to slide over to Resolutions and click Resolutions. And then that'll come up and it gives you a synopsis of how the resolutions are made, why they're important, what the process and the timeline is to get a resolution passed. And then here at the bottom, you're going to see some more links. And one of them is called Committee Membership Request Form. Click on that. And this comes up. And it's just a questionnaire asking you for contact information and also asking you your first and second choice as a committee membership, and if you'd be willing to serve as an officer of the committee. And then if you go down to the second page there, it's going to give you committee membership expectations. Read those over carefully. Decide if that's still your cup of tea. Then fill out the thing and go back. Once you fill that, print it off, fill it out, and then you'll want to send it in to the CFM office. If you want to, you can go ahead and contact them also here over on the contact button, the last one over. Click on that. If you want to send your information to the office, and you can write a little message in there, say you're interested in becoming an RAC committee member. Okay, one more thing I want to show you on this website. Back under Programs, Actions, Resolutions, you'll see this drop-down box over here. And this lists all the resolutions for the last 10 years. You can click on any year, and it'll bring up the resolutions that were passed during convention last year. And then at the very bottom, you'll see resolution responses. And you can click on those, and you'll see the actual response from the department that we sent the resolution to. And you can read their answers and what they expect. So basically, that's it. You can find a lot of information out on the webpage. There's one more question I know y'all had, and that was, is it worth it? Well, all I can tell you is I've been involved in the Archery and Shooting Sports Committee for the last 4 years. And in my opinion, yes, it's worth it. It's worth it to be involved in an organization of Missouri citizens that's passionate about putting Missouri outdoors, its natural resources, its wildlife, its forests, its lakes, its rivers, its streams first and at the top of the list, including parks and trails and canoe streams. We want to work with people who are interested in keeping Missouri wild outdoors for future generations. So I hope you are at least curious about joining one, and you'll do some more information, and I hope to work with you soon. But right now, it's back to enjoying more Missouri outdoors. Cool. Shout out to Black Widow Bows, a great partner of CFM down in Nixon, Missouri. So if you're interested in traditional archery gear, give them a call.
Thanks, Jeff. Great message. What a wonderful opportunity it is. And, you know, these resolutions and this process is at the heart of our mission and what makes our voice so strong. So if you can get involved and join a resource advisory committee, because now's the opportunity, now's the time as we get ready to start this process for the next year. Our CLC students are getting ready to have their fall workshop, and they're going to be working on resolutions next weekend. So if you do have ideas, send things to us this week, and we can get it in front of the students as those resolutions get started too through their process. So thanks again, Jeff, for all your involvement. Great video, and appreciate you putting that together for us. Up next, we have Director Mike Sutherland from Missouri State Parks. He's going to talk about COVID and how the impacts of that and how they dealt with their high visitation numbers and how they've adapted. So we've got a video from Director Mike Sutherland from Missouri State Parks.
You're on.
Good morning, everyone, and it's good to be with you. I wish I was there in person, but I'm coming to you from Wakanda State Park up in northeast Missouri. Today, I wanted to share with you some information and a little bit of story about the past year that we've been experiencing here at Missouri State Parks. In February, I was named the director of Missouri State Parks. I'd been acting director since about November, but the official title and for the future came in February. I hadn't been State Parks Director long, and we had to start looking at operating and working a little bit differently. And today I have a slide presentation that I'm going to present to you to give you a little bit of background about where we've been over the last few months and what we've been experiencing, some of the changes that we've made, and then also where we're going and into the future. We've had certainly unprecedented times, and that has come with unprecedented challenges and unprecedented opportunities. So first, I want to go through a little bit of the timeline about the experiences that we've had and some of the things that we've had to change. As I said, I became director in February, and by March, we already knew that we were going to have to make some changes based on the changing times that COVID-19 brought. In March, we suspended events and programs, trying to reduce exposure and groups of people. We also had to suspend group tours and school tours, and we also began to make changes in our group camps and in our open and closed shelters. And by March 20th, getting kind of near the end of March, we closed visitor centers and our historic site offices. And then, which made me, I believe, the first state park director to ever have to take those kinds of actions. And then in March of 27th, we took another really significant action, but one that seemed to be the one that was the right decision, and closed campgrounds and our park run lodging. Things continued to progress, and as we made these decisions, we always were trying to look at the data, try to look at what was on the horizon. Every week, every day seemed like it was a new change. And on April 2nd, we actually had to close 4 parks: Castlewood State Park, Elephant Rock State Park, Watkins Woolen Mill, and Weston Bend State Park. And we also did a partial closure at St. Joe, basically closing down the ORV area there. In our mission in Missouri State Parks, as all of you know, is to preserve and interpret natural resources, preserve and interpret our Missouri's great cultural resources, and provide recreational opportunities. And we base that on 3 pillars, basically safety, service, and stewardship. So those are all the considerations that we were taking as we were making changes to change our operations. By May, things had been progressing and changing a bit more. We were learning a little bit more about what we needed to do to have a safe environment for not only our team, but also our guests. And so by May 4th, some of the concessionaire lodging started to open back up. On May 11th, we were able to reopen Castlewood State Park, Elephant Rock State Park, Watkins Woolen Mill, and Weston Bend State Park. And those are for day use. We still hadn't opened up the camping at those parks that did have camping. Then on the 18th, we opened our off-road vehicle riding in St. Joe. And then by May 18th, we also made the decision that we would be able to open up our park campgrounds and park run lodging for existing reservations only. What we knew that we had a certain number of reservations, and we knew what that number was, and we felt like we could operate safely with those numbers coming in. So we first opened up with just the existing reservations that we had. And we also made the change during this time and the decision that we would have our campgrounds be 100% reservable. The idea there was that we could manage the number of folks that were coming in, and also had a good idea of who was coming in. And we, at the beginning, we gave our park superintendents a lot of flexibility and discretion, and we still do. They know their parks and facilities best. And so when we first started opening the campgrounds, we some of the campgrounds we stayed at 50% capacity and didn't have any more guests than that. That would give an opportunity for social distancing and also allow us to have just an understanding of how we would work and operate. And so then gradually we started making other changes, and eventually we're able to open our campgrounds completely up. And we were basically operational on Memorial Day, but then by July 1st, really we got to a place where our parks and campgrounds were completely open again. We also had our beaches closed for a time, and those reopened on May 21st. And in July, we made the decision. We had suspended all of our public meetings. We have a public meeting at all of our state parks and historic sites each year to interact with our guests, other stakeholders, and give a report about what we've done and what we're going to be doing in the coming year. And in July, we started having those public meetings again, but in a little bit different way. We certainly have instituted a lot of social distancing protocols and tried to do those in a really safe way. And then July 3rd, we did open up our playgrounds. And again, all of this was done in a little bit different way depending on the jurisdiction. In some jurisdictions, there were local orders, and we adhered to those local orders and still do. There are still local orders in some areas where we have facilities. And so all of the changes also adapt to that. And that's, again, part of where our facility managers really know their area, know their facility best, and they have been making a lot of those decisions at their park and site on how to best operate. And I can tell you that our team has done a great job of being very conscientious and very understanding of trying to provide that safe service. As we continue going, it also gave us some opportunities to collaborate. And so one of those collaborations and education was a collaboration that we had with the Missouri Department of Conservation. And so as we introduced and welcomed guests back into our facilities, we also wanted to let them know and understand what it was needed to be safe in the outdoors. And so we were able to partner and produce this video that I just wanted to show you one of those examples.
Nature is a great social distancing companion when enjoyed responsibly. It helps boost immunity, helps you stay healthy, and is a great way to calm anxiety. And it's great to have fun. While enjoying the outdoors, follow the recommended guidelines. Avoid crowded places, keep a physical distance of at least 6 feet, stay home if you're sick, bring water, soap, and sanitizers, and be considerate of others. Check for the latest updates at MissouriConservation.org or MoStateParks.com. Be well and be safe in the outdoors.
We also, as far as our operational changes, including trying to educate and doing different ways of education, we implemented a number of other social distancing kind of improvements and safety guidelines for our guests. We increased the frequency of cleaning at our shower houses and restrooms and lodging. We also, along with our social media presence and the videos like the one you just saw, also put new signage up and tried to, when you go to a Missouri State Park right now, you'll see those signs scattered everywhere, reminding everyone that getting out in the outdoors is a great opportunity, but that you still have to be safe and still have to practice those social distancing protocols. We've reopened our campgrounds with reservations required, as I talked about earlier, and we'll continue that through October 31st. We had that initial limit on capacity, but we've changed that. So now that our campgrounds are open to 100% of the campground sites are open, again, based on availability. We did add additional staffing at our call center because we get a lot of questions from our guests and other stakeholders. So we wanted to make sure that we could answer those questions. And although we're 100% reservable, the reservations can be made up until 7 p.m. the night before. So it's pretty convenient. It is a change, but I think that our guests and users are starting to adjust to that. We, along with those operational changes I just talked about, we have a new contactless self check-in, which was new for us this year, where as folks come into our state parks to check in, they can do so just on their phone, on a computer, or they can do it through a text message, or if they have to, they might be able to do that still with a campground host. But what we tried to do is reduce that contact as much as possible, and not only to keep our guests safe, but also our team safe as well. We also have promoted online our sales and rentals. So what you can do now, which you couldn't do before, was that if you want to rent a kayak or a canoe or some other rentable amenity in our state parks, you can do that online now. And again, that happens in a contactless way, but it's an added convenience that we didn't have before, that really the situation over the last year has encouraged us to make those changes. And so it may be a change that lasts into the future. We've also converted our ORV permits at St. Joe State Park and Finger Lake State Park to be available online. Again, this is a change that we made based on the current situation, but really has ended up being an added convenience for our users and our guests. So social distancing has become sort of the new normal. I kind of put that in parentheses. But we have introduced and practiced social distancing at all of our stores and visitor centers. We have opened those up, as I talked about earlier, but we have made changes. You'll see plexiglass screens. There'll be encouragement of the 6-foot distancing, and also encouraging folks to wear face coverings when they're in indoor spaces and can't maintain that 6-foot distance. We also have occupancy restrictions in our shower houses and restrooms, and for the most part, only accepting credit card and debit cards, but that has become kind of the normal, so it hasn't been too big of a problem for our guests. Some of our trails, where it's needed, we've converted to being one way to reduce congestion and reduce that overcrowding. And we still do, although we don't have any parks or sites that are permanently closed at all, we do still sometimes need to implement some temporary closures just to prevent overcrowding in some of our day use areas more than other areas. I talked a lot about signage, and again, if you come to our parks and sites, you'll see a lot of new signage, and here are a couple examples of the signage that again encourages people to be outdoors and safely use our facilities, but also reminds them of the things that we can all do to respect each other and to practice social distancing. We've also increased our communication, and here's an example of kind of some of that encouragement and trying to encourage people to be outdoors, but also remind them of kind of the things they need to do to be respectful of each other.
While it's a great time to be outdoors, we must remain diligent in taking steps to make our trails as safe and enjoyable as possible. If you visit a Missouri state park, please do so responsibly. First, it's important to maintain a 6-foot or more distance from others. Solo use or use of the trail with people from your own household is highly encouraged. Do not use the trail if you are sick or have been exposed to others who are sick. Come prepared to share the trail. This means both yielding and warning other trail users of your presence as you pass. If possible, choose less frequented parks and trails. If you visit a park and see that the trailhead or parking lot is busy, then you should probably rethink your visit. It's important to consider the health of you and your family. Keep your dog on a leash. This also means treating your dog as a family member by keeping them distanced from other trail users and other dogs. And last, but certainly not least, please remember to pack out your trash. If it comes with you, please take it with you and actively help us protect Missouri's natural resources. Before you head out to a Missouri State Park, please check mostateparks.com for the latest information about closures and trail availability.
As I've said at the beginning, we've had to work and have a lot of new challenges. You can see we've made some operational changes, increased our communication, and really made some changes that are going to last into the future. And so really, if you look at the situation as a whole, it has really also created some new opportunities and encouraged us to do some things in new ways that are really better ways in our communication. And also another great opportunity is that we've seen a lot of new users. As you can see here in this graph, and I have a couple graphs that I'll show you, is that our visitors in the spring, although it changed a little bit, as you can see, it was down just a little bit. We had our campgrounds closed. We had a lot of our facilities with many changes in their operation, and you can see that reflected. But you can also see that over time, folks started coming back and getting out into the outdoors in Missouri State Parks. And so we've experienced really some of the highest usership that we've ever seen. We've seen a lot of new guests as well. I get out into parks quite often and working in those facilities. And as you talk to people, it becomes obvious that maybe they've never been there before. It's their first time out into the Missouri State Park that they are visiting. And that's a frequent occurrence. And so I believe that we are going to see increased use and increased appreciation for the outdoors in many years to come because of all of the new people who are experiencing the outdoors for probably not the first time, but maybe not for a long time. We've also seen our camping change. As you can see in this graph, there was a time where our campgrounds were closed and there was no visitors in our campground. But once we opened the campgrounds, folks started coming back. And we've actually experienced increased camping and lodging occupancy. And again, I think that that's a trend that we will continue to see for many years to come. Here you can see our lodging units and have a very similar graph that you would see with our camping units as well. And we've seen about a 15 to 16% increase in our occupancy. And really there's no sign that that's going to slow down anytime soon. Of course, it will decrease with the season, but we think that that trend of more people getting outdoors, more people appreciating the natural and cultural items and things that are special that we interpret and preserve will continue for a long time. We've also gotten creative with interpretation. One of the things that we do is tell the story of Missouri, and usually we do that in person traditionally. But because of the obvious changes that we've had to make, we've also had to make changes in how we approach interpretation. We've increased virtual tours. We've used Facebook Live, learning new technology, just like today, coming to you in a little bit different way. We've pre-recorded social media videos, have virtual storybook trails, have pre-packaged lesson plans, and also created activities that people can access virtually or through video or through our website that they can do at home. And I think what that's going to do is really introduce folks to the outdoors in a new way. While they might first experience it by a virtual tour, when given the opportunity, they're going to want to go out and see it for themselves in person. So I think that also has led to more visitorship and more folks coming out to our parks and sites. And I just want to leave you with this video. It's kind of our final thought as we go and kind of as we appreciate each other and have respect for each other. And when we get out in the outdoors, know that social distancing is important, but the outdoors are a great place to be. It's healthy to be outdoors. And a lot of people are finding that and getting a new appreciation, an appreciation that all of you already have. But believe it or not, some people have not had that experience, but they're getting it now. So I just wanted to leave you with this final thought from one of our interpreters.
Hi, I'm Chris from Knob Noster State Park. You can help protect Missouri's natural and cultural resources by practicing Leave No Trace while you recreate. There's only 7 principles and it's so easy. Plan ahead and prepare. Look for information before you visit. Like, is the park open? Is there water? Are there restrooms? How long is the trail? These are the kinds of things that you want to know before you visit. Travel on durable surfaces. Be sure to stay on designated paths and areas of the park. It will help you protect the wildlife and possible sensitive plants or areas. Trash your trash. Always pack out what you pack in. And why not? Pick up some of the litter you might find along the way. Take only photos and leave only footprints. It's wonderful to see and smell the natural beauty of the world around us, and we want to bring it home. But remember to leave flowers, rocks, and anything else you might find behind so others can see it too. Instead, take photos, make a sketch, or a memory. Minimize campfire impacts. If you're going to have a fire, be sure to use a provided campfire ring or a picnic grill. This is especially important during dry spells when fire can easily spread to unwanted places. Respect wildlife. Enjoy the sights and sounds of wildlife from a distance. Keep your space and never feed anything. It's what's best for you and the wildlife. Respect other visitors. Sometimes it's easy to forget that you're not alone in a park. Practice social distancing with a minimum of 6 feet. Remember to speak with inside voices, respect trail right-of-way, and always use headphones if you want to listen to music. Missouri state parks and historic sites are full of great places for you to see and explore. Be sure to practice Leave No Trace while you visit to help us protect your natural and cultural resources.
Thanks to Mike and State Parks team for all the great work they do. As you can see, the outdoors are certainly busy and there's a lot going on, and great time to get outdoors. So it's the weekend, it's here, and time to get outside and go enjoy nature and the outdoors. So thanks to everybody that's joined us over the last couple of days. It's certainly not what we hoped for, but it was a great time, a lot of great information. And thank everybody, all the staff and volunteers that have put their time and energy and effort in putting us off. Michelle, great job. Thank you for all that you did. You did an excellent job putting all these videos. And I wish you all could see the behind the scenes stuff. It's been a challenge, but it's great, and everything came off seamlessly. So thanks for everything that you did, and all the staff. I certainly appreciate everybody. And thanks to you all for joining us. Your time is precious, and we appreciate it. And we want you to know that you can lean on us as a resource as we get through these challenging times together. We're all in this together. You know, as we work through legislative efforts or resource issues and stuff, that know that, you know, as we lean on you, we want you to lean back on us and grow that partnership together, because we truly are here for you all, and to enjoy nature, get outside and enjoy conservation and all the outdoors. So again, thank you all, and appreciate everybody coming to join us, and have a great weekend, a great rest of the year, good fall, and we'll be looking forward to seeing you virtually or in person one of these days. So thank you all. And if you haven't seen the 85th video, it'll be up on our website, and the videos, all the great stuff from our anniversary celebration. So any final thoughts from anybody?
Get outside.
Yeah, and I enjoy working with each one of your organizations. Hopefully soon I'll be able to visit you guys, so keep me posted. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.